Hello, everyone. Pastor Jonathan here, and it's time for this week's edition of the Weekend Wrap-Up. So glad to see you today. As you can see, my guest this morning is Pastor Todd. How you doing today?
Doing great. It's good to be with you here today, Jonathan.
Good. Well, we're coming off a long holiday weekend, but we had a great day Sunday here at First Baptist, and the message was particularly striking again. And so we take time during the week to think back on Sunday's message and reflect on things that maybe stood out to us in a particular way. So, straightforward question. Was there anything in particular about Sunday's message that stuck out to you?
Well, when we walked in and had opportunity to pick up the bulletin, there on the front of the bulletin, it says, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. And the entire message kind of really focused on that we're to have a future tense in mind and not to think of the things that are temporary, but to think on and dwell on and to live our lives as though we're focused on the things that are eternal. Yeah. Even the points that he was making about the fact that our union with Christ is eternal and our resurrected bodies will be eternal. That gives me joy because I know my physical body has limitations and ailments and illnesses and things like that. But looking forward to that eternal union with Christ and that resurrected body. But even beyond that, the fact that our political leaders are temporary, but Christ's reign and rule is eternal.
I have to say, it was a little tough to hear Sunday morning that I passed the threshold of being considered old a few years ago. Right. I will be happy to say that I don't necessarily feel that old, but I appreciate it being pointed out. No, but it's all seriousness. It is very true. As we age, our bodies now are not made for eternity. Right. But we have been promised that kind of body that is made for eternity.
Amen.
And so the thing that stood out to me about all of that and what he was preaching this past week was a quote that he gave about halfway through the sermon, that for us who follow Christ, it's really about us living as if the resurrection is true. It's not a fairy tale. It's not some sort of legend that we pass down from one generation to another, but it's the truth. Mm-hmm. And so if we can learn to live with the resurrection in mind, or something that it brought to mind was a quote that you have given several times in the past, which is to live as though the Bible is true.
That's right.
For us as believers, that's very important because it impacts all of our decisions and the way that we live our life and the choices that we make. And so it's very important for us to remember that, yes, there are certain temporary aspects of life that really are important, but the greater importance is on those things that are eternal. And when I think of it in those terms, then I realize there's a lot in this life that I worry about that really doesn't matter in eternity. Yeah. And if I can let go of those things and keep everything in its proper perspective, my life is characterized more by the joy of following Christ and the hope of his promises being true for all of us. And so in that regard, I'm going to want to live differently. And I'm not 100% at that because sometimes I forget and I lose my perspective and I get anxious or I get fearful or I get selfish. But God in his grace brings me back to that place of saying, okay, you're off track. Get back on the things that are eternal. That's why even a passage like Colossians that you referenced there helps me to set my mind on things above. Yep. And all these things that Pastor Chris referenced in Luke chapter 20 this past Sunday really impact that and really spoke to that in a lot of great ways. So I wonder if you're there and you're watching this morning, if there was something in particular about this past week's message that stuck out to you, feel free to comment below and let's share those things with one another and encourage one another this coming week. We're looking forward to this coming Sunday, where we'll once again be with Pastor Chris, and he'll bring a great message from the Word, and we'll have an opportunity to consider that Word and how it takes up root in our life and how we can live by it, and let the joy of following Christ and living in obedience to his Word really characterize who we are more and more. Appreciate you coming on with me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you later.